15. Amazon HQ2. Back in 2017, Amazon made headlines when they announced that they were trying to figure out where to put their $5 billion second headquarters. While 238 cities made bids, ultimately it was Crystal City near Arlington, Virginia that was decided on. When it's complete, HQ2 is set to encompass over 300,000 square meters, with their four most important buildings being three 22-story high office towers and the Helix, which will be a 34,000 square meter double helix building designed to house an artist residence program. And while COVID definitely threw construction teams for a loop, the entire thing is expected to be finished by 2025. Number 14. Buffalo Bills Stadium. While Highmark Stadium has been the home to the Buffalo Bills since 1973, there's a new $1.4 billion stadium that's currently in the works. Expected to be complete in 2026, it will be located right across the street from the current stadium. However, it will certainly have a lot more going for it. Set to seat between 60 and 62,000 fans, while having standing room for a further 5,000, this new venue will be absolutely massive. Although at this time, taxpayers are expected to foot about 3/4 of the bill. As such, despite it being pretty cool, it's more than likely that not every citizen in Buffalo will be all too happy about it. Number 13. Samsung Chip Factory. In recent years, there's been a global chip shortage, so in order to combat this, Samsung has announced the creation of a $17 billion factory. Set to be built in the business-friendly state of Texas, construction will begin sometime in the first half of 2022, with the goal being for it to be fully operational by the second half of 2024. According to current plans, it will cover a whopping 5 million square meters and will help supply Samsung's manufacturing plant in Austin, while also creating 2,000 jobs and bolstering the local semiconductor industry. Given that this factory will be at the helm of Samsung's latest line of high-performance computing devices and artificial intelligence, I'm pretty confident that the factory will be super high-tech. Number 12. Singapore Changi Airport. Singapore has become increasingly popular in recent years, and so it makes sense that it's decided to expand its main airport. You see, while the existing Changi Airport is a super modern structure filled with retail stores, restaurants, and a massive indoor waterfall known as the Rain Vortex, these are all overshadowed by the massive Terminal 5 project. Set to be completed sometime in the mid-2020s at a cost of about $10 billion, it's expected to be the airport's most costly project to date, as it will add 3 runways, a network of inter- and intra-terminal tunnels, and increasing capacity by a whopping 50 million people per year. Once complete, Singapore Changi will easily be one of the most impressive airports on the planet. Number 11. Jubail 2. Put simply, Jubail 2 is set to be one of the world's largest civil engineering projects. Located in Jubail City, Saudi Arabia, the plan is for it to cost a whopping $80 billion and span an area of 83 square kilometers. Now, Jubail was built as an industrial city in 1975, and so this expansion is just a continuation of a state-led industrialization effort. Now the project is being constructed in 4 phases over 22 years. Phase 1 is already complete and consists of 8 blocks of industrial land, while phases 2 and 3 will include another 7 blocks alongside various support industries and power facilities, while phase 4 will include 4 blocks along with aluminum and smelting industries. Once complete, the economic output of this city will undoubtedly be massive, making this city a high-cost but a high-reward proposition. Number 10. 10T Core Network. Nothing quite beats having an EU passport, as its integration with the Schengen area allows holders to move from country to country with practically zero restrictions. And while Europe's infrastructure is already world-class, soon the 10T Core Network will bring things to a whole new level. Also known as the Trans-European Transport Network, the goal is to create brand new sets of railway lines, roads, inland waterways, maritime shipping routes, ports, airports, and railroad terminals to connect all of Europe. The idea is that all of these new additions will be environmentally friendly, with this massive project being split into 9 core corridors that will all be interconnected. While all of this building will make things more efficient, the estimated total cost will be a whopping $600 billion, and given that it likely won't be completed until about 2050, it will be a while before all the benefits of this project are fully realized. Number 9. Chuo Shinkansen. Of all the railway lines in the world, few will be quite as advanced as the Chuo Shinkansen. Made using technology known as a maglev line, the trains essentially work by using magnets to levitate above the air and move at breakneck speeds without causing the rider any discomfort. Now, when I say breakneck speeds, I mean it, as the Chuo Shinkansen trains will run at a maximum speed of 505 kilometers per hour. For reference, this is so fast that the nearly 4-hour drive between Tokyo and Nagoya will be cut down to just 40 minutes using this train. The hope is that this train line will eventually extend between the Japanese cities of Tokyo and Osaka, making travel in these areas extremely efficient. However, while this tech is super futuristic, it's also very expensive, at a cost of $64 billion. It certainly won't be cheap to fully install. Number 8. The US-Mexico border wall. When President Biden took office, one of his very first actions was to repeal Trump's border wall. And while this has led to far less attention on the wall at the federal level, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has taken matters into his own hands by funneling over $1 billion into its creation on his state's border with Mexico. You see, border protection has been on the top of his agenda as he seeks re-election next year. And so in order to show that he's tough on illegal immigration, Abbott plans to fund between 50 and 295 kilometers of barrier construction. Since the Texas-Mexico border is over 2,000 kilometers long, this will barely make a dent, although Governor Abbott claims that his wall will be closer to the longer estimate due to the fact that he thinks Texas can build the wall at a much lower cost than the feds ever could. However, only time will tell whether or not he and his project will be successful. Number 7. Dubai Land. While Disneyland and Universal Studios are some of the most well-known theme parks in the world, Dubai Land hopes to one day eclipse these world-renowned spots. First announced in 2003, the idea behind it is to create a park that's twice the size of Disney World in Florida. Divided into an attractions and experience world, a sports and outdoor world, an ecotourism world, a themed leisure and vacation world, a retail and entertainment world, and a downtown area. The complex originally had many big sponsors, with big brands like Lego, Six Flags, Universal, and F1 all making plans to set up shop there. However, once the 2008 recession hit, the construction of Dubai Land was put on hold, and in the process all of these companies decided to leave. Yet by 2013 the economy had recovered enough for construction to recommence. And given that the project has had $55 billion pumped into it, I'm sure that it will be an absolutely incredible spot once the entire thing is finally open. Number 6. Forest City. Malaysia has been a major target of China's massive Belt and Road Initiative, and so it makes sense that it will be home to a massive urban development known as Forest City. Announced in 2006 as part of a 20-year project, it's a $100 billion development that's projected to be made up of 4 man-made islands covering 30 square kilometers. The islands will be a mix of residential, leisure, commercial, and industrial spaces, and when complete will accommodate 700,000 residents, while also offering attractive dining, leisure, and sightseeing options for international visitors. Financed 60% by China and 40% by the Malaysian government and its private sponsors, Forest City has been touted as the Shenzhen of Southeast Asia, as it's super close to Singapore, just as the Chinese city of Shenzhen is super close to Hong Kong. However, while Forest City is being promoted as an eco-friendly and futuristic city, it has drawn a lot of criticism, and that's because it not only has caused significant environmental damage, but it has also been seemingly for nothing, as fewer than 500 people actually live on the first completed island. Therefore, Forest City has been dubbed by some as one of the most useless and expensive mega-projects in the world. Number 5. The South-North Water Transfer Project. China is a huge country, and while it's certainly rich in resources, they aren't distributed all that well. After all, while the north of China is home to almost 50% of the country's population, and a large portion of it is industry, it only has about 20% of the country's water resources, and this has led to several water scarcity crises in the region. In order to combat this, the Chinese government is constructing the South-North Water Transfer Project. The idea behind it is to divert water from the Yangtze River in the south to the Yellow River Basin in the north, with the plan being for this to be done by a series of 3 canals, consisting of an eastern route which leads to Shanghai, a central route which leads to Beijing, and a western route which reaches northwestern China. The hope is that once completed in 2050, the entire system will transport 44 billion cubic meters of water annually to China's relatively dry north. However, while the project was slated to cost $62 billion, so far it's rung up more than $79 billion in expenses, and I wouldn't be surprised if it eventually surpasses the $100 billion mark. Number 4. Medinat Al Harir, Silk City. Kuwait is easily one of the richest countries in the Arabian Gulf, and so it's no wonder that it will be home to the Medinat Al Harir, or Silk City in English. Conceptualized as a solution to Kuwait's growing overpopulation and overloaded infrastructure issues, Silk City will cover a total area of 250 square kilometers and will be built in individual phases that are to be completed within 25 years. With an estimated cost of $132 billion, it's one of the most radical and expensive construction projects in the region. Yet the economic potential is massive. You see, Silk City will be connected to Kuwait City via the Jabr Causeway and will be able to house up to 700,000 people. It will also have multiple attractions such as an Olympic stadium, a nature reservation area, a new airport, and a duty-free area. However, its most outstanding attraction will undoubtedly be the Burj Mubarak skyscraper. Said to be 1,001 meters in height in a tribute to the 1001 Arabian Nights folktales, it will have a total of 234 floors and house up to 7,000 people. Interestingly, the building will be split into 7 vertical villages that will include hotels, residences, offices, and entertainment amenities. I'm sure that living in Silk City will be a truly incredible experience. Number 3. Al Maktoum International Airport. Dubai has quickly grown into a worldwide center of opulence and commerce, and this increased popularity has sparked the creation of a new airport. You see, Dubai is currently home to 2 airports, and while Al Maktoum International Airport already exists, it's far too small. In order to relieve some pressure from Dubai International Airport, Al Maktoum is getting some seriously large upgrades. In the past, the airport handled about 700,000 passengers a year, yet due to its newly implemented capacity expansion, it can now handle up to 26.5 million people. While this is already crazy enough, the airport's second phase is going to bring things to a whole new level. The first part of this phase is to increase the airport's capacity by 90 million passengers per year, with this being facilitated by the addition of a new 165,000 square meter terminal, 2 385,000 square meter satellite concourses, 2 4.5-kilometer long runways, and 6 train lines. Then, the second part of the phase will essentially make a second copy of the additions in Phase 1, with the only major exception being the fact that it will allow 65 million more passengers to use the airport instead of an additional 90 million. This would make Al Maktoum the world's largest airport, and given its insanely high capacity, we doubt that it will ever feel too crowded. However, given its slated completion date of at least 2027 and slated cost of about $82 billion, Al Maktoum won't achieve this world record-breaking status for a little while. Number 2. The California High-Speed Rail. Of all the infrastructure projects currently underway in the United States, few have been quite as controversial as the California High-Speed Rail. The original idea behind it was to build a high-speed rail system that would travel at speeds of up to 355 kilometers per hour in order to make the trip between LA and San Francisco in just 2 hours and 40 minutes. For reference, this is about 1 hour slower than flying, but more than 3 hours faster than driving, and theoretically it should make it far easier for commuters to travel between the two cities. Now, when the project began in 2008, it was supposed to cost the 2020 equivalent of $40 billion. However, ever since, the costs have ballooned to about $105 billion. While all the optics at play are rather complex, the 3 main challenges have been the continuous changes in route design, delays in moving underground utilities, and problems buying all of the land along the proposed route. These have led to many questionable policy decisions, with many believing that the addition of extra stops has added billions of dollars to the cost, while severely decreasing the speeds of the project's various train lines. Unsurprisingly, all of these features have led to a lot of political backlash, with many former supporters calling for an end to all of the spending surrounding the line. And while the California High-Speed Rail is pegged to be completed by 2029, there is a high likelihood that it may lose so much popular support that the project is halted before completion. Number 1. The Great Man-Made River. While Libya's large oil reserves makes it a rich country by African standards, Libya isn't exactly a country that's swimming in cash by Western standards. And it's because of this that its Great Man-Made River project is extremely expensive relative to its income. After all, its slated cost of more than $25 billion has made it extremely difficult to finance. although in many ways it's an absolutely essential piece of infrastructure. Libya has a lack of fresh water, as 90% of its landmass consists of desert or semi-desert areas. In order to combat this, the Libyan government began the Great Man-Made River Project in 1983. The idea behind it has been to take water acquired from various reservoirs and distribute it to the cities across Libya. In order to carry out this colossal task, the project has been split into 5 phases, and to date, 3 of the phases have now been completed, while the last 2 are scheduled to be finished sometime before 2030. Now, it should be noted that the Great Man-Made River isn't actually a river. Instead, it's an underground network of pipes that consist of 2,800 kilometers of tubing, more than 1,300 wells to draw water from, and the capacity to deliver about 6.5 million cubic meters of fresh water per day. This makes the Great Man-Made River the largest system of underground pipes and aqueducts in the world. And while the network currently facilitates 70% of all fresh water used in Libya, it's not without its hitches. After all, from 2011 to 2020, Libya went through 2 civil wars that caused much of the pipeline to become damaged, with this culminating on April 10th of 2020 when a station controlling water flow to Tripoli and neighboring towns was seized by an unknown armed group. This completely cut off the flow of safe drinking water to more than 2 million people, making it a true humanitarian disaster. And while this loss of water has since been restored, due to Libya's internal instability, it's likely that the Great Man-Made River's projected completion date of 2030 may need to be pushed back.